Are you ready to embark on an adventure through the world of words? Join us on the Reading Revolution and let's explore the exciting world of literacy together. Hello and welcome to the Reading Revolution, powered by bookvending.com. We're headed to Longview, Texas to speak to the Reverend Dr. Evan Dolive, who is the executive director of the Greater Longview United Way. After spending many years of leading a congregation as a pastor in Longview, Dr. Evan Dolive has now left the pulpit to lead a nonprofit. The Reading Revolution starts now. Reverend Dr. Dolive, thanks so much for joining us on the Reading Revolution. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Hey, let's start at the start. Let's talk a little bit about your background and where you got to. You do have an extremely interesting background, and I think the audience would love to hear where you were before joining the Greater Longview United Way.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thanks for having me on here today. Yeah, my background, it took a lot of different twists and turns. I went to Stephen F. Austin State University in Nacogdoches, Texas, nestled in the piney woods of East Texas, which is apropos because our mascot was the lumberjack. And I was going to be a physical therapist. I majored in kinesiology and health science. I was doing all the things you need to do to be a physical therapist until I was like, a year or so out from graduating, and I just didn't feel like that was where I needed to be. I was about to get married, and I was like 20 hours away from graduating, and I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up. It was a really weird time. So I was getting more involved in my community and my local church, and that's when I felt called to go into the ministry. And so I went to Lexington Theological Seminary in Lexington, Kentucky, and got my master's in divinity. With an emphasis in pastoral care and counseling. I'm also a board certified chaplain with the Association of Professional Chaplains. And I did that world for many years. I was in parishes, I was in hospices or hospitals. And then about 9 years ago, I got called back to my hometown in Longview, Texas, where I am now, to pastor the church that I grew up in. And I did that for about 6.5 years. I was the associate minister for family life. We did everything from young adult ministry to kids and youth and families, and it was awesome and it was great. Until I got this feeling that I was ready to take the next step in my career. And in the back of my mind, it always been kind of like, do I go into nonprofit? Do I go to a bigger church? Do I leave? And this position popped open here in Longview at the Greater Longview United Way. And I knew of the United Way from my family and things that they were doing in the community. But I just didn't think that I was qualified for it, to be perfectly honest. And a good friend of mine said, "Hey, I want you to go apply. I think you'll be great at it." And I luckily did, because it was the last day that they were taking applications. And so, yeah, I ended up getting through the whole process and then coming to here at the Greater Longview United Way. Along that time, I finished my doctorate in practical theology at Texas Christian University. So my mouthful name is the Reverend Dr. Evan Dolive, but it's okay. But I've been here for 3 years now. Just celebrated my third anniversary here at the Greater Longview United Way, where we are doing some pretty cool things, and we're trying to make an impact in our community. And trying to unite the caring power of our community.
And how was that transition going from one way of serving the community, which you obviously were doing on, a religious side, to taking those same talents and the experience that you had there and then putting it to work in a nonprofit organization?
Sure. Yeah. It was a little bit of a struggle because the religious world has a different order and structure and kind of ways of doing things. The tradition that I am ordained in is congregational led. It's not pastor led. It's not top down. So a lot of times the pastor is kind of taking the lead from the congregation. They can cast vision. They can cast direction. They can kind of say, "This is the way I think we need to go." And so when I first got to the United Way, I was kind of waiting around for the board to kind of tell me, like, this is where I think we should go. And they're like, "Well, when are you going to do that? Or what's the next step?" And I'm like, "I don't know. You tell me." And they're like, that's not how it works. You're in charge now. Like, you're the boss now. And so, and people still ask me, today, if I'm ever going to go back. They would say, oh, do you ever want to go back into ministry? And I say, well, I am doing ministry, just not within the four walls of a stained glass building. So that move, going to the parish life into nonprofit sphere, the hardest part was just kind of that reorienting of how the structure of that is, and also how the community is still there, but the emphases are different. And so really kind of relearning that, but having surrounding myself with people like on the board and then even my staff who really kind of helped me move along in that road.
So can you talk a little bit about the way the United Way is structured in its giving? And, are there new programs always introduced? Are there the long staying ones that will never go away? And that's the way that, Longview's always kind of worked here. Talk a little bit about, the day-to-day, how things are done with the Longview, Greater Law. I can say this, we'll edit that out.
Yeah.
The Greater Longview United Way.
Sure. We operate in what's called the community chest model. So just like that piece on the board of Monopoly, it wasn't just a fun alliteration from Milton Bradley. They were real things in the early 20th century. And ours was started here in Longview in 1947. The idea was simple. People who had money put money into a chest, and people who needed money took money out of the chest. And that's essentially what we do today. I mean, the community chest programs merge with other nonprofits, and now they all kind of get federated under the United Way banner today. And so we primarily fundraise, through giving campaigns and payroll deductions. But the way that we fund our nonprofits it's a pretty interesting model. So we focus on three core areas: health, financial stability, and education. That's the three building blocks of a strong life and a strong community. And it's kind of like a three-legged stool. If you're healthy and you're educated, but you're not financially stable, that's a problem. You're financially stable and you're educated, but you're not healthy, that's a problem. All three pieces have to mix together. And so we, at the United Way here in Greater Longview, take a survey of what is happening in our community. We meet with elected officials. We meet with hospital, CEOs. We have a big chemical company here, and we meet with all these people throughout the year to kind of say, like, what are you seeing? Like, what are we not seeing? What are you hearing? What are we not hearing? And like that helps us push forward the emphasis of that year's campaign and how the money is going to be delved out. And so those nonprofits that we partner with, those programs that we fund, have to fall in one of those three categories: health, financial stability, or education. And we go through a grant process with them, and they submit a program that they want to be funded. We don't fund 100% of that program. We want to make sure that they can sustain themselves if we happen to disappear tomorrow. And we never tie anything back to salaries either, because if we disappear tomorrow, that's somebody's job. I can't live with that. And so they tell us the programs that they want us to be funded. And then we have a whole team of volunteers of our board and local community leaders who sift through those grant applications. And we have meetings with those directors, and sometimes we have some hard conversations about direction, vision. If it kind of looks like what you did last year with no growth, and you've been stable for the last 5 years, like, is that what you wanted? Or did you want to grow, or do you want to decline? And so we have to find ways to assess, for lack of better word, the ROI. Is the money that we're raising that's being invested into the community having a positive impact? And so we've had programs that have been partners for 20 plus years, and we have some that are coming on new this year. Just because you're under the banner of the United Way doesn't mean you stay there. We are always looking and seeing, like, is there a better way of doing things? If you don't meet the requirements of our grant, then we might say thank you and goodbye. But we're always doing that to ensure to our donors that we are taking our job seriously, that the money that we have raised, particularly now, like with inflation and mortgage rates going up and people having less disposable income, the people who gave that maybe out of their abundance, but maybe not. So we want to make sure that it's not just thrown away into the ether. We want to make sure that it's here, and staying in our community and going to programs that focus on those three core areas.
You said a couple of things that jumped out at me, even talking about the transition where you're going into a leadership role, but there are still people who want to have that leadership, but also have an opinion. And what you just mentioned about the community needing to actually have some skin in the game. Isn't that really the way things need to work, where you're getting input from everyone, but also that commitment to make sure that what you are going to do is sustainable?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we can't do what we do without our donors, and but we also can't do what we do without the input of the community. Because as much as we think we know everything that's happening, we don't. And so there's always something that we're going to miss, and there has to be that connection, that push and pull that's happening with both sides. We're not going out there saying that we have it all figured out. We're saying this is where we understand things to be. This is the data that we have from our state organization, from United Way Worldwide, and this is where we think the community needs to grow and push. And sometimes that's heard, and sometimes it's not. And so we still have to, continue to fight for health, education, and financial stability of all people in our community. But sometimes the way that we approach it has to be tailored to the way that the community that we're speaking to.
So how did you learn about Inchy Bookworm vending machines?
Oh, yes. I tell people all the time that all great ideas are stolen. And so in Texas, we operate in the independent school district model. Some places have county models. We're independent school district, which is good and bad all at the same time. Like we're a very small county, and we have 7 school districts. It's a lot. But we live in the adjacent county. My wife and 4 kids do. And one of the schools that my son went to had a book vending machine. I had never seen one before. When I first saw it, I saw it from the sign. I thought it was just a traditional candy chip vending machine. And then I said, why is that by the library? And my son said, no, that's a book vending machine. So then we looked at it, talked to the librarian about it. And immediately I thought, I have to have these, in my, from the United Way. Like, this is a cool program. This is something no one else is doing. The librarian herself raised the money herself at my kid's school and bought it herself. Like, there has to be a mechanism to give these programs, these machines to schools, because I'm the product of public education. My mother and my grandmother, and now my sister, are public educators. Right. And so my mom was a teacher for almost 40 years. And so I know what it's like to be, to have a parent that's a public educator, and the stress and the things from the state that are coming down, telling you what to do, what you can do, and
Yes.
parents and all that kind of stuff. And so I thought, what a cool way to not only get our name out there, but to give kids books. And then so I saw that, and I was like, this is what we need to do. And so we had some money set aside at the United Way for education that we hadn't really figured out how we're going to utilize that particular money. And so I went to the board, and I had written this whole big thing up. And I said, I have a weird idea, but I think it's going to work. And so I pitched this thing that I called Read to Succeed. That's our program, is Read to Succeed. And I said, they're book vending machines. And I got so many looks like I had 3 noses. I'm like, what are you talking about? And luckily, one of my board members is a longtime educator, and she's now a principal. She said, no, I've seen these at one of our elementary schools. This is going to work. And once she said that, people were like, okay, let's see what we can do. And so it's just been an amazing ride for that. It's just, they're so much fun. I just love doing it so much.
And again, with the act of reading, you're involving the kids, you're involving the schools. It's really a community effort with the support that you're putting behind it.
So yes, yes, absolutely. So through the process of starting Read to Succeed, we've learned so much just about the importance of reading. intuitively, instinctively, just by being raised by an educator, I knew that. But finding hard data that I can go to a company or corporation, a law office or whatever, and say, hey, do you know that a kid who's not reading on grade level by the end of third grade is 4 times more likely to drop out of high school? Like, that's a big, moment for them. And then you say, but then if they do drop out of high school, you remove $260,000 over the lifetime of that person from the local economy. So when I say that to a bunch of bankers, their heads just start spinning a little bit, because I'm like, you want to change the economy of East Texas, get every kid in the county to graduate high school. Like, we can do that. But you have to catch them when they're 4, not when they're 14. And so, to have that community partner to say that, yes, we may be divided on the football field. We may be divided based on, county districts or, council districts, but it all impacts us together. So we're all paying taxes to go to the public school system, whether we have kids or not, because it benefits all of us. And so the community buy-in to that has been great. The community recognizing us now as, hey, you're that group that does the book vending machines. It's just phenomenal that we get to have that moniker put on us, because it shows that the tie-in and that they're having to the community, but it also shows that they recognize the importance of it. They just didn't know how to address it.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I did want to follow up with, what was the reception like with the Read to Succeed program, coupled with being able to bring these unique machines that people find out, boy, they're customizable. They can look like anything that we want them to. And again, giving kids the gift of reading and encouraging them to, because you mentioned the stats as well. The stats are there, and we know that students who don't graduate are less likely to be involved in their communities. They're less likely to be employed, and on and on and on. So as you mentioned, the community was extremely pleased with it. That has to be another sign that that your Read to Succeed program is working.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can't emphasize that enough. And the fact too, when businesses just call me out of the blue and say, how do I sponsor a machine? How can I get a machine at school X? Or, hey, we had a better year than I thought we were going to. Instead of, donating it over here, how can I get a machine in this school? Really just kind of shows the buy-in, and no one's twisting their arm to do it. No one's saying like, this is something that you have to do. They're saying, I see the benefit of what is happening and the importance of literature and reading in our students' lives. And then they're coming to the forefront to do that. And what has in turn happened, because competition is good, right? One bank sponsors a machine. Well, then the neighboring bank is saying, well, if they did it, then we have to do it as well. Right. We want to make sure that we're also doing that. And so we all win in that situation. And so the community really coming behind us has been great, because people are seeing, the amount of books that we're able to put out of those machines. And so, some of our schools are putting out hundreds of books every semester. They tell us every semester how many books they give out, how many students are affected, popular titles, and some success stories. That's part of the deal of being in the Read to Succeed program. And so we have that data that then I can go and say, look, in the last 2 years, we've given out over 5,000 books out of these machines. That's not insignificant. Like particularly in a place where in Texas, less than half of students are reading on grade level by the end of third grade. So we really have to have that early intervention to get them to that grade levels piece, or it's going to be a struggle later on down the line.
Have you ever gotten any feedback from, teachers and, other folks embedded in the schools and not just the community members, and how much they appreciate the Read to Succeed program?
Yes, well, all the time. Our teachers and educators are just rock stars. They are on the front line of that every single day. That's one thing that we ensure that we tell the schools, is that we're never going to be the one going over what book that you put into the machine. Like, you are the one, you are the subject matter expert. You are on the front line every day. You know your school better than I do. And so, yeah, like the other day, when we had a reporting, forms were going out at the end of the school year, one of our schools wrote me and said, I just want you to know that because of your machine, we're experiencing what she called a reading renaissance. That the teachers were disheartened by the lack of reading. Reading scores were down. The state standardized testing scores were down, and they just didn't know what to do. They tried all the things that they learned at conferences and workshops, and it just wasn't clicking. And then this machine shows up, and then they walk past it every day when they come into the school, and they're incentivized to meet reading goals, whether it's going from a B plus to a B minus to a B, or a C plus to a B minus. That they're getting incentivized to do this, and hundreds of books are being pumped out. That a reading renaissance is happening in their school. And what's most impactful about that, whenever I got that letter, is that when she wrote that principal wrote that to me, they'd only had their machine for 7 weeks.
Wow.
And so in 7 weeks, we've fundamentally changed the entire literacy culture of a small school, which is across the street from a cow pasture in rural East Texas. We have fundamentally changed that school's literature and literacy metrics, all because we put a book vending machine in the hallway of a school. And every time the teachers are great. They send me pictures of kids getting the books that hold it in front of the machine, whole classes who get it and everything. And I just love looking at them because kids are so excited to have it, right? Like they have Dog Man, right? That's the book they wanted, right? Or whatever book it is. And the teachers just every semester, whenever we have the reporting, just write at length just how impactful that has been, and to a level that it catches me off guard sometimes, that's something that I thought was kind of a cool, neat little thing. I thought it'd be kind of fun, has just in my mind just exponentially blown up, and now I'm seeing these ripple effects throughout the community.
So are all the machines that you have placed in, wherever they may be, whatever organization, are they all in schools, or are there other places that you've been able to, put the machines into?
So we have machine 17 coming up. So we'll have 17 machines, here in a couple of days. 15 of them are in schools. We have 2 that are not in schools. One is at a Boys and Girls Club here in Longview. They were one of our original machines that we bought when we first started this program up, because they do a lot of out-of-school programs and a lot of summer programs. And so we wanted to have that be a spot for their learning and their tutoring program to be an incentive for them. I think the coolest spot that's out of school that we have a machine is at a low-income clinic here in Longview. They approached us and said, we have this kind of interesting idea. What do you think? And so the idea is when a child comes into the clinic for a well check, they will get a coin to get a book out of the machine. And so that way you're catching people who may not either in school if they're under the age of 5, or in a school that we don't have a machine yet. And then also you're targeting a population that may not have the financial resources to purchase books or have that many books in their home. I read a stat the other day that 2/3 of American children don't have books because their parents can't afford to buy it at retail price. So we jumped on that one. I think it's a really cool way that they do it. So it's in the patient waiting room. So the kid sees it, they can pick up the book they want. So after they meet with a doctor for their well check, they can come out, get a book as a way of saying, hey, thanks for coming to the doctor today. So 2 of our machines are not in schools. And so, and we're always looking for different ways and different partners, because we don't care where it is, just as long as the kid gets a book.
What great places to think of outside of, the regular school organizations that so many of the machines are in. And that also speaks to your versatility and your flexibility of how you can get these programs instituted into your community.
Well, thank you. Yes, thank you. Again, it shows that sometimes you have one idea and you might have to just pivot a little bit because the outcome is still going to be the same, if not greater. A health clinic was never on our radar. We have a list of every elementary and junior high school, and primary school in the county, but we never said maybe we should put them in doctors' offices. So now we're having conversations with our two hospital organizations that are here in Longview and saying, hey, look, it's working over here at this clinic. Like, why not in some of your pediatricians' offices? My own children's pediatrician has asked me to have a machine in her waiting room because she wants one, because she's seen what is happening, with all of our machines. And when we first kicked this off, we were just so focused on schools because that's where most kids go. But there are these different spots where you can catch kids that aren't in that network yet. And thankfully the clinic reached out to us and asked that question because I'm not sure we would have thought of it on our own.
What I find intriguing about the Read to Succeed program is you're providing a framework, but you're also giving that autonomy of what kind of books do you want to put into the machine? What kind of books are resonating with the students? What a great way to give these schools the empowerment to provide what they think is best and what the kids will really enjoy.
Yes, and a cool thing about doing that too is that that for a couple of schools, like when we approached them, they said, well, what books do we have to put in there? Like they kind of were reserved on that, like, hold on, because we've all seen the stories about student school council meetings and book bans and all these other things. And there's places for that in some cases, but not in all. And then when I say, but you can do whatever you want. Like, I'm never going to tell you what book to put in there. You follow the guidance of your ISD, you follow the guidance of the Texas Education Agency, and then we're good. You just send me the list. I'll send it to Scholastic. They'll ship the books to you, kind of situation. But what also is neat is that a couple of our schools, when they knew that was coming, that the machine was coming and being built, they would go to classrooms, or they would send out a Google survey, and they would survey the kids. They're like, we're getting this machine. What books do you want to see in there? So instead of the librarian going, well, I guess they like these, they ask the kids. So now there's a direct buy-in from that kid. They're like, well, I know I like Cat Kid or whatever. I want to see that book in there. Or my favorite book is, Amelia Bedelia. I want to see that book in there too. And we have a school that is also a dual Spanish English immersion program. So they're taught in English in the first half of the day, and they're taught in Spanish the second half of the day. And so half of the machine is in Spanish language books, and the other half are in English language books. I never would have known that had the school not said this is, because they just did it this year. And so the machine is wrapped with English on one side, Spanish on the other. So they're really reinforcing that. So the autonomy there is also just a way for us to say, we recognize what you do and how hard it is, and we're not going to have any oversight on that. We trusted you to do your job because 99.9% of the time, teachers are going to do that.
And following up on the autonomy, the ownership that the kids have to say, yes, this book is mine. It's not just the book that's theirs. It's opening that window for them to understand that their education is theirs as well. What a great way to start and reinforce that line of thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree on that. Yeah, that they have, that their choice matters, that their voice matters, that what they get to decide their future. They get to decide what they want to do. And also it's a cause and effect, right? If I do these things that I'm being incentivized to do, then there's an effect to do it. And so, well, on the surface, the kid might be like, yeah, this is a great book. The educators know that has a lasting effect or potentiality of it. And so, and they know that machine is theirs. It's their school colors, it's their logos, it's their mascots, it's their slogans. And so they love their machine. And so whenever we have those ribbon cuttings and stuff, it's just fun to watch them.
Do you have any memorable ribbon cuttings or any other stories that you can share from, one of the book vending machines in the schools that just sticks out at you as, yes, this is the one. This is why this program works.
Yeah. So we've done 16 machines in the last 2 years. We actually have our 17th one coming up in a couple of days for the end of school. The one that always sticks out to me is the very first one, because we had no idea what we were doing. I knew I wanted to have a ribbon cutting. I knew I wanted to have the news and the paper there. And I talked to the principal and we got it there. And there were like 30 kids, around this machine. And the first kid that got to take put the coin in, and he pushes 12 or whatever, and the book fell. And when the book fell, you would have thought we were at Times Square with the ball dropping. Those kids just erupted in excitement of this book just falling 4 feet within a machine. And I was caught off guard by that, because I did not know what I was going to think, how this is going to happen. And so because of that, every celebration, I tell the students whenever the kid gets a book out that the only rule we have is that you have to cheer every time a book falls out of the machine. And so we still get to do that all 16 times later. And so it's great to see. I used to watch the kids when they would put the coin in and push the numbers and watch their faces as the book dropped. I still do that some, but I primarily watch the teachers. It's the teachers that get more excited about Cat Kid falling from the top row down, because they know the impact of that book. They know how it's going to potentially influence that child's life for the better, 6, 10, 12 years down the road, or however it is. And so to see the teachers get so excited, to see them tear up that kids are getting books out of there, particularly those kids that they know come from difficult households, or households that may be right on the poverty line, or that don't have a whole lot, to see that they get something that to call their own. And then the excitement that the kids get when you say, "Nah, you don't have to bring this back. Like, this is not a library book. This is yours." That the excitement that they get for that. Celebrations are one of my favorite things that we do. And I love going to see them, because everyone's is a little different, but the excitement level is always the same.
Now, you've mentioned, oftentimes a business will approach, your United Way chapter and say, "Hey, we're interested in getting a machine for school X." If a school is interested in doing this on their own, what's the process like? How do they approach the United Way for getting their own machine?
Yes, so we do it in a couple of different ways. So if a business calls and says, "We want to sponsor a machine," we generally say, "Is there a school that you want to put it in?" And so sometimes they say, "Yeah, we kind of want it near the office," or whatever. But oftentimes they say no, because I don't know where the best fit would be, or where their greatest need is. And so we have a group of people on the board called the Literacy Committee that oversees our literacy programs. And we get together and say, "Corporation X here has decided that they want to give us money for a book vending machine. Where do we think the best fit would be?" Because we cover the whole county. Like I said, we have 7 school districts. So we want to make sure that we're spreading the wealth around a little bit. So we say, based on the testing scores, or based on whatever, maybe this school over here. And then we go approach that school. If a school comes to us and say, "Hey, what just happened?" Generally, after every news report that we're having one of these, I get phone calls, which is great. And they say, "Hey, we're really interested in getting one of those machines as well." I'll say, "Okay, that's wonderful. I wish I could do that right now. But until we get funding from a grant or a foundation or a corporation, I'm just going to keep your name on a list of interested schools." So I'll ask them some of their demographics, what our state test here in Texas called the STAR test. And so, like, what is your STAR test scores for the campus in reading? What's your free and reduced lunch breakdown? What's your racial breakdown? All those different things that we ask, just to have a little snapshot. So then that way, if money pops up, or if money is granted from a foundation for this, then we go to the literacy committee and say, "These 6 schools have shown interest. And let's figure out which ones we need to look at."
So I also wanted to ask a little bit about the landscape of nonprofits in 2024 and moving forward with the things that we've
Sure.
already kind of mentioned, employment and inflation and people not having those extra dollars necessarily to give. What kind of challenges are you facing with your United Way chapter going forward and looking at just, how are we going to keep all these programs running when there's a lot of people that just don't have as much to give as they used to?
Yeah, we actually just had a meeting about this yesterday. So what we've noticed, at least in our neck of the woods here in East Texas, is that um, philanthropy, and I think this is nationwide too, philanthropy is kind of shifting and changing. We do have our donors and our corporations and our business leaders who still do the payroll deductions, do the corporate matches, do the corporate gifts, and for our traditional everyday campaign that we do at a United Way that, most United Ways do across the country. But there's also a piece of philanthropy that where they want tangible things. They want to see something tangible. And so I think that's why I think we have so many businesses that like the book vending machine, is that they can see the tangibility of it. I can tell you all day long about a changed life for someone who, who went through counseling is now better, or, got out of a domestic violence situation. But they can't really see that unless I show you the person. Now they can see something physically and tangibly. And so there's a shift that I think is happening. And that's why here at our United Way, we do the primary campaign. That's our number one goal, is to fund our partner agency. But we do these other initiatives on the side that our donors are telling us they want to do. So we're going to do them. But they may have not as much time and emphasis as the primary campaign. But we're going to do these because our donors are saying this is what we want to see. So philanthropy in that regard is changing. Now, COVID and inflation has not done anyone any favors. And so people are being very, People are being very, they're holding back on their funding for nonprofits. Because we had two things kind of clashing together this year, and that's inflation and election years. Election years, there's always a little dip in nonprofit giving. And so we have those two things butting heads. And so we really have to be able to tell the story of why, out of all the nonprofits, out of all the organizations and all of the town and all the state and all the US, why mine? And so sometimes we have to have those data and figures, but also we point to things like a book vending machine and say, look, there's 16 of these, about to be 17 in this county. And now we've given out over 5,000 books, which can lead to this, and this. And so now that hybrid model that we're doing is kind of where we're sitting in. Sometimes it kind of feels, a little hard to do, but we're really just kind of going on what our donors are saying. We're not going to jump ship and leave all of our partner agencies behind, but we're also not going to leave our initiatives behind as well.
It's amazing what you can accomplish by showing and not telling. And from what you've been discussing here, throughout this entire podcast it is that not just here's a whole bunch of numbers, it's what those numbers actually mean and how they're affecting lives.
Right. Yeah. People want to see the impact of their dollar. People want to see the impact of what their time is being invested into. People want to see how that is going to make and change someone's life. And sometimes they want it pretty quickly. They want to see how that is. So to be able to say it's been over 5,000 books in less than 2 years, 17 book vending machines, and but then also, but because of that, we have the potentiality of changing people's lives when it comes to their education and their literacy levels. I mean, a reading renaissance is happening at this elementary school in Northeast Texas, right? And so we want to be able to show that and show the metrics of how that is moving up is key to us. And so it does come down to messaging and for lack of better words, marketing. But being able to see them and to be recognized for them too. People say, oh, you guys do the book vending machines. My daughter goes to school over here. and she got a book out the other day and she loved it. And like, those are the stories I love to hear when people see my name tag or the shirt I'm wearing that says United Way on it, that we're being linked together like that.
So we're halfway through 2024. My goodness, the time does fly. What do you have on tap for the next 6 months as we're at the halfway point? What do you guys have that you're working on for the rest of the year?
So right now we're in allocation season. So we are going through all the grant applications. We'll do that after Memorial Day, have the big meetings with our directors and divide that out across the 3 focus areas. And then the campaign season starts right back up again. We have a lot of events and programs that we do across the year. One that I think is probably really unique, and after probably this podcast, somebody else will steal it because it's a great idea. We'll steal it because it's a great idea. We have a thing called the cardboard boat race here in Longview. Promise, it's amazing. So we have a cardboard company here in town that gives us as much cardboard as we ever wanted. And so we give teams 6 4x8 sheets of cardboard, and they have to make a 2-person boat out of it. You can use duct tape on the seams, but nothing else. And then we race it around a local city park in a lake, and it's glorious. And
I'm not gonna lie. That sounds like a lot of fun. I'm 50 years old.
So much fun.
That sounds like a blast. We might have to do that, fellas.
Oh, it's fun for us because it's fun for me because I'm on land. I'm the announcer the whole time. So, but it's just fun to see the community come out and like get so invested in these cardboard boats, which half the time don't even make it around the lake once. And so it's fun to get to do that. And then also at those events, we're talking about all the cool things that we're doing at the United Way. And so, yeah, like like I said, we're in the Piney Woods of East Texas. So last year our theme was Pirates of the Piney Woods. So it was all pirate themed. So we're looking forward to that. The campaign will kick off later in the year in September, August, September. And we'll just keep, working as hard as we can for our nonprofits and our corporate, in our partners for those programs that we fund. All the while, checking up on our Read to Succeed partners, and hopefully some more corporate partners will come alongside and help us out. And then in 2025, we're going to bring an esports gaming convention to Longview called East Texas Gamer Con. It's the first one ever in this area. We're going to try that out. We're working with a group called LANFest, LEN Fest, and they help other nonprofits put on gaming conventions. And so we're really excited about that. It's a little different than anything we've ever done. So we want to make sure people are excited about that too. There's a lot of cool things coming up, I think.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you've certainly got a full plate of activities and people to, things for people to get involved with. Best places for people to find more information about the Greater Longview United Way, social media or otherwise.
Yeah. So our website is longviewunitedway.org. And we're on, the major social media, Facebook, Instagram, X, or whatever Elon Musk is calling it today. LinkedIn as well. But yeah, the main way is just our website and then our social media channels.
Well, we appreciate your time being on the Reading Revolution, and all the best of success. I know that you and I will still be in contact long after this podcast airs.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations on Machine 17. That sounds like another fun celebration that you'll be able to participate in.
Yes. Soon. Well, thank you so much. I mean, and Book Vending has been a great partner for us. Made everything real easy, to get those machines, even quick turnarounds, like when we had to do this Machine 17. Working with, having the educators work with your design team, and, even as little as saying, I'm not very good at art, but I want it to look like, here's the idea I have in my head, and here's some clip art and some JPEGs, and your team putting it together. It's been amazing. We always make sure that every machine is custom wrapped. We always make sure that it is to the school's logos and colors and mascots and slogans. And then even, how we, and by being able to do that, they have the ownership and the investment but the process of that, you guys have made it so easy. And so the last 2 years have been great. I hope and I suspect we'll keep doing, more with you guys, because we've had other machine companies reach out and we've said no, because we have such a great relationship with book vending, that we're not going to rock that boat because they haven't failed us yet.
Well, we appreciate your patronage, and we're happy to be a partner with you. And again, looking forward to many, many more years of that. And let's do this again when you have a chance to come back on the Reading Revolution.
I'll be happy to do it anytime you need me to.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Dolive. Have a great rest of the day. And again, all the success with Machine 17. We'll stay in touch.
Thanks so much.
For more information about the Reading Revolution, please visit bookvending.com. If you would like to contact us or would like to suggest a guest, drop us a line at readingrevolutionpod@gmail.com. The Reading Revolution is hosted by Josh Gregory, with technical direction from Thomas Crane and David Gagan. The podcast is produced by Jake Blumberg and Connor Russo. The executive producer is Jay Blumberg. Thanks again for watching and listening. We'll see you here again on the Reading Revolution, where literacy matters.